All right, guys. So I gotta tell you, I am just as disappointed with a lot of you guys in regards to the results of the midterms. Okay, it has not been easy, right, to do my job over the last few days, but hey, it must be done. And despite all the negativity, I still find some silver linings of optimism in regards to 2024 because it is very clear that the Democrats are about to get a lot more crazy. And the problems with the GOP are problems, in my opinion, that are very clear in regards to what needs to be fixed and what doesn't need to be fixed, what we need to focus on, what we shouldn't focus on. And I think that if we can focus on these issues and solve these problems, while the Democrats don't solve their problems, they actually get more crazier. I think that there is hope. I mean, like, for example, the mainstream liberal media, I mean, they're floating the most ridiculous candidates for the Democrats in 2024. Like, for example, remember they floated John Fetterman. And now they're floating tickets like Liz Cheney and Stacey Abrams. Take a look.
Let me throw out a couple of other names if I can. So you've got Val Demings, right? You've got Liz Cheney, Sherry Beasley, Tim Ryan. A top Democrat suggested to me, watch for Tim Ryan in years in the future to run for president. I mean, I don't know. Do you count these folks out? Are many of them maybe the right candidate in the wrong state?
Well, what about if we pair up Liz Cheney and Stacey Abrams and actually start talking about universal voting and election reform? I could see them doing kind of a czar thing with the administration that's completely bipartisan. That would be exciting.
I mean, stuff does turn over in this point in an administration.
But there's commissions that the president can create, and there is definitely an appetite for this kind of movement of like there's not one American who has not experienced an election day and said this is flawed. There has to be a better way.
Yeah. So. Apparently what America wants, according to MSNBC, is a Liz Cheney, Stacey Abrams ticket, okay? Along with maybe John Fetterman having a shot as well, too, because a Joe Biden, John Fetterman presidency is a no-brainer, okay? But again, what I'm trying to tell you guys is that despite the negativity, there are silver linings of optimism because the GOP has a reason to self-reflect, okay? I've been self-reflecting for the last few days, figuring out what went wrong, what went right, what needs to be changed, what doesn't need to be changed. The Democrats don't have a reason, okay? Even though they lost the popular vote, okay? You know, the popular vote that they brag about all the time, okay? How it's so important, right? How that verifies that America's on board with their agenda. Well, this time around, Republicans, conservatives won the popular vote during the midterm, which confirms that maybe, just maybe, this country is center right. Again, there's just a few issues that need to be fixed that are turning off independents and conservative Democrats from flipping over to Republicans that I think are clear, at least in regards to what the issues are. We're going to talk about it. But Democrats don't have a reason to reflect. And because they don't have a reason to self-reflect, they're going to double down on the extremism that put them in this situation in the first place. Like, for example, Nancy Pelosi coming out here and essentially saying that her husband getting attacked and the right's response to that is what swayed voters in the midterms. And also she says that Biden has done a great job as president and that he would be a great choice to run again in 2024. Take a look.
Speaker, you alluded to this when I asked about your husband, but I just want to ask specifically and kind of point blank about the fact that there has been such extremism, such political violence, and what happened to your husband was horrific. Do you think that had an impact on voters as they cast their ballots?
I don't. I know that what people tell me, that's anecdotal, and we always say the plural of anecdote is not data necessarily, but it is a trend in what I'm hearing. But it wasn't just the attack. It was the Republican reaction to it, which was disgraceful. And that, I think, really, the attack is horrible. Imagine how I feel as the one who was the target and my husband paying the price and the traumatic effect on our family. But that trauma is intensified by the ridiculous, disrespectful attitude that the Republicans, and there's nobody disassociating themselves from the horrible response that they gave to it.
So you think that turned
further into that?
That turned voters off?
They tell me so.
This news, we see that Donald Trump is planning to announce for president again on Tuesday. Is that good news for Democrats?
I don't go into any discussion of his plans. I mean, I think it's bad news for the country, let's put it that way, because this is a person who has undermined the integrity of our elections, has not honored his oath of office, who has encouraged people, strange kinds of people, to run for office.
So do you think President Biden should run again?
Yes, I do. I mean, President Biden has been a great president for our country. He has accomplished so much. 10 million jobs, over 10 million jobs under his leadership, working with the private sector, of course. He has just done so many things that are so great. We need a lot more show to talk, but he's put money in people's pockets, vaccines in their arms, children back to school, people back to work. All of it with justice, with equity, with inclusiveness, with diversity, taking us to a new place. He has been a great president. He has a great record to run on.
Yeah, so like I was telling you guys, this is one of the very few areas in which I do have some optimism here moving forward, is because it has become very clear that, again, the Democrats are not going to do any type of self-reflection. They're going to double down on their extremism, okay? That's what they're going to do. I mean, Nancy Pelosi said that she believes that voters were swayed by the attack on her husband. I think she's admitting out loud what the whole purpose probably was behind that attack. But again, she's saying that, well, the right's response to that turned people off. And it's like, I don't really think so, okay? Because we don't know what happened with your husband, okay? He was attacked, but who he was attacked by and why he was attacked, we really don't know. You guys said it was a MAGA supporter. You haven't proved that yet. In fact, it seems like you guys don't really want to talk about it anymore, even though you've been talking about January 6th forever, and you've connected this attack to January 6th. But again, midterms are done. The outcome was achieved, right? The goal was achieved. You won't hear about it anymore. You won't hear about it. So if you listen to Nancy Pelosi here, she says that Joe Biden has done a great job as president, and that he should run in 2024. Now, again, this is before the midterms. You'd be hard-pressed to find any Democrat that came out here and that was enthusiastic about supporting Biden in 2024. Most of them were either non-committal or they just was kind of like, like nobody want to be associated with Biden. So Nancy Pelosi coming out here and jumping on the Biden train in 2024 is a sign that, again, Democrats think that Americans agree with their agenda, right? That's what they think. As you can see here, according to the exit polls, when asked about whether or not people in general want to see Joe Biden run for president in 2024, 67%, a majority of the people said no, including 31% of those people were Democrats. 31% were Democrats. Is your opinion of Joe Biden favorable or unfavorable? 56% said it was unfavorable. 14% of those people were Democrats. So as you can see here, I mean, it's not like Joe Biden is well liked. What happened during his midterms really had nothing to do with the good job that Joe Biden is doing, as much as it had to do with the fact that Republicans dropped the ball on some key things that they need to fix going into 2024. This is not an approval of the Democrat agenda. It's not, okay? In fact, I think it is a rejection of it in the sense that America voted to basically stay gridlocked, okay? That is how America voted. It's going to be gridlocked the same way it was the last 2 years unless we see Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema flip on the issue of the filibuster, which in some cases for Republicans could actually be a good thing depending on what they decide to compromise on, if there's any compromise. For example, there's no doubt in my mind that there's going to be massive pressure on the Democrats to repeal the filibuster or have a filibuster carve out for codifying Roe v. Wade into law. Now, again, pro-life people are going to hate this, okay? But from a political perspective, if we're talking about taking away probably the main reason or one of the main reasons that Democrats were even competitive this year, which is the fact that young people came out and voted mostly on the abortion issue, you can take away that advantage if Democrats decide to carve out a filibuster exception to codify Roe v. Wade into law, which again, there's going to be massive pressure for them to do that, considering that Roe v. Wade has been overturned and so many people came out here and voted on this issue. Now, if Democrats don't do that, if they choose not to do it, they risk pissing off their base by not doing it, because they definitely can do it if they want to do it now at this point. And if they do it, that is now an issue that gets solved for the base and progressive base, and that doesn't give them a reason to come out and vote in 2024 the same way they did in the midterms. Okay? So again, some of this stuff is actually good in the sense that if Republicans won, Democrats would have been forced to actually go back to the drawing board. Okay? You would have not heard about the so-called attack on democracy. They would have stopped with all the, LGBTQ woke extremism. They would probably chill out on a lot of the spending. They would maybe reevaluate their stance on Ukraine. Maybe they would get tougher on crime. I'm just saying, if Republicans would have won the Senate, okay, if the red wave would have happened, Democrats would have changed. They would have become a lot more moderate, okay? They would have rejected the woke progressive extremism that is dragging that party into Cuckoo for Cocoa Puff world, okay? But because there's this perception that, hey, they did better than expected, a lot better than expected, really. Hey, we don't need to change anything. That means we're doing things right. We're going to double down on the extremism, which again is, hey, it's a bad thing for the country. It's a good thing for Republicans in 2024 because, again, the problems of the Republican Party are very clear. They're not easy to fix. I think I said before in the past, they're easy to fix. They're easy to evaluate, okay? They're not necessarily easy to fix. But I think probably the easiest issue is the issue of abortion. It's very clear. What needs to happen, and this is going to piss pro-lifers off, but it is what it is. I'm pro-life, but at the same time, the writing's on the wall here when it comes to the issue on abortion. It's very clear that the threat of banning abortion nationwide, or even at the state level, really scares the shit out of young progressive women, and it makes them vote like crazy. And the GOP does not have a counter for it. They don't have a counter for it because the GOP has no appeal to young voters. Have you guys ever been to your local GOP meeting? There's nothing but old people there. No offense, okay? I love all my old folks, right? But again, the party needs to make an effort to present counter solutions to what the Democrats do, because the Democrats, they appeal to young voters when it comes to this issue, again, on like abortion and, for example, student loan debt. And apparently they're not smart enough or wise enough, really, to realize the okie doke that the Democrats and Joe Biden always play on them, right? In regards to this issue of student loan debt. Joe Biden tried to forgive it with an executive action, knowing that it was unconstitutional for him to do it that way. He did it anyways, got the progressive / young base excited about it, and then they went out and voted, and then after the midterms, come to find out, the federal courts ruled that it was unconstitutional. So now it's going to go to the Supreme Court, and it will probably be struck down at the Supreme Court as well, too, which is exactly what Nancy Pelosi said, right, when it was being thrown out in the first place that Joe Biden could forgive student loan debt. She said, no, the president doesn't have the authority to do that, right? But hey, young people didn't care. The Democrats said they're going to do it. Joe Biden did an executive order. They go out and they vote on it, right? And they have people sign up for it. I'm going to get my $10,000. Again, turns out you got swindled, right? You got swindled. But this is why the Republican Party needs a solution on this. The problem with student loan debt is the system. It is a systemic issue that needs to be fixed. There's no reason why the cost of education should continue to rise the way it is. It is outpaced inflation. There's no reason why education should cost as much, but the Republican Party doesn't have a solution for it. They don't have any legislation that is designed to try to fix the problems with our bloated education system in order to bring down the cost of college in the first place so that we don't have this problem. Republicans aren't focused enough on these real issues that I think a lot of people are really concerned about that can appeal to young voters, and they don't take layups on certain issues as well, too, that appeal to young voters, like marijuana. Right? Like just legalize marijuana. Why in the world are we still doing this state by state thing? Republicans should have already come out by now and just been like, you know what? We're on board with legalizing marijuana. Okay? Again, now all of a sudden you got every young, independent leaning pothead in this country, which is a whole lot of folks, right? It's more people than you think. Okay, just go to Colorado, right? You can easily sway people like that if you just take layups on easy things. The problem with the Republican Party is that they play too much defense against Democrats instead of playing offense and presenting their own solutions. The Democrat solution is to give everybody a big government bailout. We don't have to solve every problem with that. Okay, we can lower the cost of healthcare for people without necessarily having to go full-blown universal healthcare like Europe. We don't have to do that. Another issue that the Republicans need to evolve on is their economic policy. It's like, at this point, the Republican Party has to take a more populist approach with economics. You can still be the party of tax cuts, just not for rich people, right? Not for corporations anymore. The corporations are woke. The rich folks don't like us, okay? They don't like us normal people, right? I think that we all need to have a come to Jesus moment that corporations are woke and the rich don't like us, okay? So the GOP, you don't have to be a party of taxing corporations and the rich out of existence. You don't have to be that. You don't have to be like Democrats, but you can say, look, we're for tax cuts just for the middle class, just for people that are working, okay? We are for tax cuts for you and small business. We want to make small business be able to be more competitive with these big businesses, right? We want to level the playing field so that small businesses, again, aren't subject to being wiped out of existence by big corporations like Amazon, okay? GOP can actually do some economic populism that is going to appeal to the working class, that's going to appeal to the small-time entrepreneur. GOP needs to evolve on some of these issues, man. But the Republican Party has to bring solutions to the table, and they just can't sit back and say, well, the Democrats are so extreme, we just need to oppose everything they do, and we're not going to bring any solutions to the table ourselves. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're actually in power. The whole point is to bring it to the table and to make clear that, hey, this is what we stand for. This is what we want for this country. And the only people that are standing in the way of that are the Democrats or this person or that person. That's what progressives do. It works. It works. Progressives, they present a whole lot of legislation that has no chance of getting passed whatsoever. But the whole point of pushing it and continuing to talk about these issues over and over and over again, to drill into people's heads the idea that, hey, we can have all this stuff. What's standing in the way is them. This is clearly what we stand for. The solution, the Republican Party has to become more solution-oriented rather than playing defense all the time. But again, this is the fault of people like Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy. Two people who are leading the Republican Party that have no solutions to problems whatsoever. You know the people in the Republican Party that I love the most? Ron DeSantis and Trump. They present solutions. They play offense. They don't just play defense. And that's the problem with the Republican Party at the national level right now, is that they don't have a clear vision for the country. Not when it comes to congressional leadership in Congress. The people that's actually in office, Ron DeSantis is a governor. He's not a national figure yet. Trump was the former president, but again, former president. He's out of office. The people that are actually in Congress, that are legislating, need to have a vision for this country that people can get behind, and they don't. That's the problem. These Democrats can be beat. The only problem is, again, is that there's certain issues that Republicans are just, they're behind the times on, and they need to catch up and to try to reach people that otherwise want to vote Republican, but they have very obvious reasons why they don't, that can easily be compromised on, okay? It's really that simple. So, again, Democrats embracing their extremism, doubling down on it, bad thing for the country, good thing for politics for the Republicans. Again, Republicans just got to get it together on a few key issues, and I think that we can make a turnaround. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.